Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 25 in our RTS city building tutorial. In today's episode, we're going to extend the functionality of the HUDs that we started to create in the last episode. We got quite a bit of work to do today, so let's go ahead and jump on it. Alright, yeah, like I said in the last episode, we started to create a little HUD system, and technically I guess they're not HUDs, they are separate menus. So you can call them menus, you can call them HUDs. Technically they are menus, but I'll probably just continue to call them HUDs just because that's what I've been calling them. So yeah, you can see up here at the top of the screen, these are pretty much all the blueprints that we're going to end up needing today. We're going to end up opening up a couple others, but only to change the building names. So you'll see that as we get to it. First and foremost, let's go ahead and start in, I guess, the building master. So down here, we'll go ahead and extend out here. We got our display HUD. So now what we need to do with this is, let's just go ahead and expand this out. We're going to need quite a bit more room. And yeah, so after this branch here, let's go ahead and we'll just disconnect this for now. Slide this off to the side, throw in a sequence, hold the S button and just click in the screen right there. So under the true, if it is this building being selected, we want to run this sequence. Now off of this sequence, what we need to do is we need to create, the way I have it set up is when you select the building, I want the camera to center on the building or the person for that matter. But I don't want it to just snap to that location. It looks ugly. So we're gonna do some lerping here, some interpolation, and or otherwise known as lerping. So we're gonna do some lerp here. We're gonna use some timelines. Now, unfortunately, with timelines, even with macros, how you can use latent nodes to put in there. That means you can use like delay and a couple others, but and I think you can use timers as well. But timelines you cannot put in either a function or a macro, so that kind of stinks. It would be nice to put this into at least a macro so we can just put it wherever we want and not have to create it for every single instance, but that's not the case. So let's go ahead and right click, add a timeline. All right, and this timeline, we'll call this Lerp location timeline. Hit enter. Off the then 0, go ahead and place it into the play from start. Double click your timeline, and let's set its length to 0.5. We only want it to go for a half a second. I play with these values quite a bit, and you can change them as you want. You can make them a little bit longer, which means it'll take longer for your camera to get to where it needs to go. But I found a half second seems to be a decent transition. You can decide for yourself. So add a key, right click in the graph there, add key to none. We're gonna need 2 of them, so do that again, add key to none. Select this first one right here in the time. Let's just put that to 0. Value will stay at 0. The second one, let's set its time to the very end at 0.5 and its value to 1. Use last keyframe. You pretty much always want to do this for your timelines. Don't ask me why, but you do. So just select these to put the graph where it needs to be. And right here where it says new track 0, right click on it, rename it. Let's rename this speed. All right. Compile it, save it. Let's go ahead. We're done with the timeline. So now what we need to do is actually, we need to create a function. This one we can put into a function here. So let's go ahead and open up your function library. Okay, so we need to create a new function. Let's call this HUD Lerp. Let's do HUD underscore Lerp location. Hit enter. And in this, what we need to do, we need some inputs here. We need 3 inputs. This first one, let's call this one current location. Hit enter. Let's make it a type vector and create another one. Call this destination location. It also needs to be a vector. And one more, we will call this one speed, and it needs to be of type float. All right, let's go ahead and compile that real fast. All right, so now what we need to do is right-click on the graph, type in Lerp. This will give you several options here. What we need is we need the Lerp vector because we're using the vectors right here. So go ahead and take your current location, plug it into the A, your destination location, plug it into the B, and alpha, ultimately that's just the speed of transition from A to B. So that's why we call this speed. We'll just plug that into the alpha like so. Now, what we need to do is we need to break this out because we need to make a new vector. So right click, actually, we can just go ahead and pull off this one, do make vector. We don't want the 2D, we want the regular vector. All right, so we got the X in there, go ahead and plug in the Y. But however, we don't want to interpolate anything with the Z. So we take our current location here, just add in a reroute node, I suppose would be easier. And then just drag off of this and do break vector. Okay, so we'll just, our current location, this will be, you know, you could probably do it, well, no, you don't want to do it off the destination because that's going to be the building or the person. So the current location is going to be the camera pawn. So we break the vector off of that, we take the Z, so we don't do anything with that, and plug that into the new make vector. And then at the end here, select this on the output. Let's just go ahead and call this one new location and make it of type vector. All right, let's drag that all the way at the end. Go like this. Let's go ahead and make this a pure function and slide this down just a little bit, clean it up, compile and save it. So that's all we need for that one. So let's jump back into the building master, right? So let's right click and do HUD Lerp location function library, drop that one in there. So what our current location is going to end up being, like I said, it's going to, all our current locations will come off of the camera, the camera pawn, yeah, the little sphere. So what we need to do here is we need to get our reference to the controller, drop that in here and get it. Now our controller already has an instance of the camera pawn, so let's just do camera pawn, get camera pawn reference. Okay, so now from that, don't worry, we're going to collapse these nodes, so this doesn't have to be pretty right at this point. From that, we need to get actor location, right? So we want the location of our camera pawn sphere. So we take that, and that is our current location. All right, so now our destination location is, well, where this building is at. So just right click in here, select get actor location. The target is itself. We'll just put this up into here for now and plug this vector into the destination. Now our speed here, conveniently, will be the speed of the timeline. So go ahead and just plug that in, and that will pretty much be it. So just go ahead and select from the timeline and all these ones we just added, right click, and let's do collapse nodes. We'll call this one Lerp location. Hit enter. Let's jump back into here so we can just kind of shift things around a little bit. All right, come back out here. What we want is we want this update. So that way this will, as the timeline plays, this update will update for every frame that timeline goes. All right, so that's what we want. So that way it'll give us that full interpolation, the Lerp look to it. Take our new location and just put it in here till you see the green check mark, drop it in. It's called new location. That is perfect. That's all we need. Compile it, save it, hit the back arrow. Let's go back out here. So now it's cleaned it up a little bit for us, makes it a whole lot nicer. So now we need to get our camera controller, need to get our camera controller reference again, drop it in here, get it. We need our pawn reference again. So just do pawn, and down here at the bottom, get camera pawn reference. And then now we need to set our location. So let's do set actor location. Plug in the update here. So that update is kind of like a tick. As long as that timeline is playing, it's going to tick to this actor location. Okay. So now we want it to tick our new location. This location will it'll lerp in between the old destination and the new one. For every frame, it'll move, and that is exactly what we want. Now, one thing that we'll have, and I don't want to demonstrate because we've got a little too much to do, so I'm just going to tell you we need to do it, is when the menu is up, you can still touch the edge of the screen and move the screen. And we don't want to do that. So that's why, if you remember, initially a while ago, we created, oops, not on the camera pawn. We want to drag off your camera reference. You could drop in another instance of your variable right there if you want, but I'm just going to use this one. Remember, we created on there disable cam nav. So we want to set that, and that is in our camera pawn controller, and it tells us we want it to true. So we set this to where for the edge screen movement. So now this will disable the edge screen movement when we're in our HUD. All right. So now off the then one of our sequence, now we could take our add to viewport. Let's go ahead and drag this, put this back up into here, grab another camera reference here, or camera pawn, the camera controller reference. And we need to set input. We only want the UI. Now what this does is this means that it will disable our keyboard functions. Our mouse will still be available, but we can't, this will disable our WASD, so we can't move around the screen. All we can do is use our mouse within the viewport. Okay, that's what we want. All right, and go ahead and select lock mouse to viewport. Widget to focus, we may end up having to come back and do this. A lot of people have problems, especially when you're using a game controller, of the widget. You have to select the menu twice, or the HUD twice. First time to make it active, and the second time to be able to actually use it. If that's the case for you, then we could just take this from the building HUD and plug it into widget to focus. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I haven't ran into any issues, but just know that if you have to select your menu twice to get something to work, it's because it's not in focus. So just plug in your HUD variable, the one that we have active in the viewport, into the widget in focus. Okay, and then from this, we also need to, off your camera controller reference, pull off, and we need to do main. We need to get the main HUD reference that we have there, which is our buttons to create the buildings and change our game speed. We want to disable this. Now, and right now it's going to be kind of ugly. You'll see in just a little bit, but we don't want to be able to select anything. We don't want to be able to place buildings while we're, while we're doing a menu for something else. It's just, it'll make it awkward. So set is enabled. Widget set is enabled. Drag that up here, and then leave that as false. We want to make it disabled. Okay, so now a couple other things we need to do here. We need to come back into, we're pretty much done in here as far as the system here for the HUD display goes. And that's pretty much how it's going to be for the rest of them, with the exception of the MPC. It'll be slightly different. Let's go into the building HUD real quick. We'll set this text box up in just a minute, but in the graph, what we need to do is we need to create a couple new variables. One, let's go ahead and call the first one building reference. Right, come down here. This needs to be of type building master BP reference. We need to make it editable and expose it on spawn. Let's go ahead and create a new category, obviously references. All right, and then we need one more. I said one more, there it is. Let's do a camera controller reference. Again, we need to change its type to camera pawn controller reference, and editable and expose it on spawn. Let's compile and save it. Jump back into your building master BP real quick. So now let's add these. We're just going to pass these references through. We could get the instance of the camera reference in the blueprint or in the widget itself, but we've got it right here. Let's just go ahead and drag the controller reference into there. Now the building reference, just right click and type self, reference to itself, and then just drag and drop that into the building instance. Perfect. So now we can use those in there. So jump back into the building HUD. Now on the on-click closed, what we need to do is grab your camera. Let's go ahead and put this into the category of references, and take your camera controller here. Let's disconnect this so it's just not in our way. Camera controller, let's get it. When we close it, what we need to do now is we need to set input. We need to set the input back to game mode and UI. So that way we can use both our functions as well as our main HUD with the building select placements and game speed and all that. So plug that in, lock mouse to viewport, and uncheck hide cursor during capture. All right, so we want that one false and lock to viewport true. So now we need to come back into here. We need to re-enable our we need to re-enable our camera navigation. So set that and then leave this as false. So now it'll re-enable that for us. And then pull off of your reroute node right here and do main HUD reference. And then drag off and do set is enabled. So now we need to re-enable that HUD. Go ahead and drag off of there, just like so. And then plug it back into the remove from viewport. So perfect. That is all we need to do for that one. That is done. So real fast, let's just do, we need to go back into our building master. And originally I had in my main project, I have a struct for all the building information. I don't think I'm going to do that. This nice opportunity for me to, as I'm doing this for you guys, is to just kind of redo how I'm doing some of the stuff, my main one that I'm not real happy with. And I'm not real happy with using a struct for this because we got a lot of information. And while that technically makes structs more nice to use, when you've got a lot of information that are kind of categorized, it just kind of is just a pain in the butt that I don't want to go through with this with you guys. So let's go ahead and call this one building name. All right. And we're going to make it a type string. Now remember, this is the building master. So everything, all its children are going to inherit this variable. So we can go into each one and individually set the name of the building, right? So let's go ahead and I don't think we need to make it editable, but we'll make it editable anyways. Tooltip should add one, but in the category here, let's change this category, make a building info. There we go. Building info category right there. So everything that has to do with the buildings, building name, occupants, things like that, or cost of the building, it'll all go in this category right here. All right. So compile and save that. And the reason why we did that, now go back into your building HUD and we need to go into the designer here and select your text box, the one we named name text. Now here in the text where it says text block, we need to click the bind and create binding. Let's go ahead and rename this F2. Let's do get building underscore name. So grab your, actually not your camera controller, grab your building reference that we dropped in here, get it, and then pull off of this and do building name, get building name. And then just take this, it needs a text, but if we just plug it in there, it'll automatically add the convert node for us. And that is it. So now when we select, it'll say what the building name is. So real quick, so we don't forget, let's jump back into our blueprints right here. Buildings, let's go into the commercial. Construction office, come on, open up the construction office. And right here under building info in the defaults panel, if you don't have this, if you have the full blueprint editor, just select the class defaults and you'll get the list. But under building name, let's go ahead and just call this one construction office. Compile and save that. Let's close. I said save. Close that out. Let's jump back out here. Go into your residential and your apartment small. Double click that. Same thing. Building name. Let's just call this one. We'll call this one small apartment. Hit enter. Compile and save it. And perfect. That's all we need for that. So now, yeah, whenever we select a building, that's what we'll have. Now the proxy won't have that. We'll have to do the proxy. So let's go ahead and, did I do that in the right one? Okay, just making sure it was selected on the NPC. I just want to make sure I didn't mess that one up. So now this HUD, this is going to be the exact same thing. We're sitting at about 20 minutes right now. So I'm probably not going to show this to you because for the most part, this construction proxy is going to be, I'm looking at it right now, is going to be the exact same as the building master. Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it's the exact same setup that we just did. The only thing I'll mention, I'll double check here with you guys, is we need to go into, we'll need to set these. We'll do that in a minute. So I'm going to pause this right here. I know I typically don't pause. I show you guys everything, but we still have the MPC is going to take us a minute to do. So just go ahead and do the exact same thing you just did for the building master HUD, the exact same thing. And we'll be right back. All right. So you could see, actually I lied. It's not exactly the same. And I'm going to explain why. I moved the disabled nav down here, and I actually went back and did the same thing in the building master as well. You can see right here, I moved the disabled cam nav down to the second part of the sequence. And the reason being for that, as I was sitting here doing this, I was thinking this update execution will update everything after it. So this entire chain, so it's going to constantly flicker on this. And now while that won't make a difference because it's just going to stay set, that's probably, you don't want it executing that right there. That's why I put this sequence in here in the first place, was just so it only updated this. And then once this is done, it'll hit the second branch of the sequence and then run this only one time. So I switched that around. So you could probably go ahead back, and you don't have to, but you can probably go back and do it here in the building master as well. And just compile it and save it. Okay. So now for the HUD of the proxy, what we need to do, we need to go back in here, and just like we did before, go into the graph. We need to add a couple variables in here. Select this one. We'll call this one proxy reference. Make it of, I hate it, that does that, construction proxy BP reference, and expose it and make it editable. And then another one, and I will end up putting those in another references, but we're running short on time. So let's just go ahead and get this done. We'll call this one camera controller reference and make it of camera pawn controller reference. Okay, editable and expose it on spawn. Let's go ahead and jump back into the construction proxy real quick. Oh, did we save that? No, we need to compile and save that so those variables come through. And then back up here in the construction proxy BP, where we create the proxy, up here in the begin play. Again, right click, we need to do self, plug that into the proxy reference. And then the camera controller reference, drag in our camera controller reference right there. And perfect, compile and save that, so now those variables will be set for us here. Now this is going to be just a little bit different. Mostly it's going to look the same. But it's not going to. It's just going to have really one other thing that's added to it. So go ahead and disconnect your remove from parent. Grab your camera controller reference, drop that in here and get it. And then we need to set input to game and UI. This is where we're closing it, remember. So drop that in there, hook that up. And then we need to pull off of this, and we need to disable, we need to re-enable our cam nav. So drop that in there and then leave that as false. Oops. Come on. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay. And then pull off of this, grab our main HUD reference. And then we need to re-enable this. So set is enabled right there. And then make this true. So is enabled true. And there we go. Now, the thing I said that's going to be different here. Now remember back here in the construction proxy, when it's built, the construction proxy is, well, it's just temporary. That's why it's a proxy, right? So in the event tick, it's doing all its construction and stuff. Well, when it's done with construction, it's going to come through here and it's going to destroy itself. Well, what happens if you have the HUD open when you do that? You're going to have issues. You're going to get a bunch of errors, access nones, and all kinds of errors. So we can't have that in here. So how do we take care of that? Well, come back into your proxy HUD, right click. Let's do a custom event. Let's call this one remove HUD. And all we need to do is take the execution and plug it in there. So now whenever we either click the red X or this is called right here, because we can't call this right here because this is an on-clicked event. So we can't call that one. But we plug this in here, it will run the exact same thing. So we go compile and save it. Come back into your construction proxy BP. Now there's still a small trick to this. Let's go ahead and slide this off. Is if you're doing construction, if you were to just put a call to the remove HUD right here, then no matter what HUD you're in, when construction completes, it's going to run this. Well, it doesn't know that, you know, you're not selected on this proxy HUD, because it's just going to automatically set everything back. So while it won't kick you out of your HUD that you're currently in, like if you're on the player HUD or an actual building HUD, but it'll re-enable input for the game. So the buttons will become active. Same thing right here. The main HUD will become active. The edge screen movement will become active. We don't want that. So we need to check for that. And that's really simple. Grab your proxy HUD reference right here. Get that. And what we need to do is, it's actually called, I gotta look to see what it is. I believe it is pull off of this and do in Viewport, is in Viewport. It's going to give you a Boolean return. So this is just going to see, is this HUD in the Viewport? Now the nice thing about this is the way we're passing self right here is every proxy has its own instance of this HUD. So it's going to know self. Right, this proxy HUD right here that we saved in this one instance of it. So even if you're in another proxy and another building completes, it's not going to reset the one you're looking at, right? Because it's not the active one. So pull off this. What we need is a branch in here, obviously, because we got the Boolean return right there, and put that in there. So if it is in Viewport, true, we need to take our proxy HUD, drop that in here, and do remove HUD. Call the function remove HUD, plug that in the true, return the true into the delay, and then take this false, and also, because even if it's not, we still won't need to execute the end of this chain of functions right here. All right. So then just drag that out, and that's how we check for that. Really simple. We're going to go ahead and check all this out in just a little bit, but we need to go back into our proxy HUD now. So now what do we need to know about the proxy HUD? Man, this video is going to run a little bit longer than I anticipated. You know what? We might have to save. Yeah, I think we'll do this one real quick. I think we're going to save the NPC for the next episode, because there is actually one other thing I want to do with the NPC, which is not part of the HUD, but something that doesn't really go anywhere else either. So, which is set their actual movement speed to the game speed. So that'll be perfect. I'll do that in the next episode. Let's just go ahead and finish up this proxy HUD right here. So what we need to do in the proxy HUD is we need to add, let's see, we need to add a vertical box. So come in here, where is vertical box? There it is. Grab a vertical box, put it on the canvas panel, and drag it and drop it right in here. Let's just go ahead and size it up for now, right? We're just going to make it big. So now in this vertical box, we need to take a horizontal box. Now, vertical box, if you don't know, means everything aligned in it is going to be vertically up and down, okay, from top to bottom. Whereas in a horizontal box, which is right there, we need to drag and put that inside the vertical box right there. Vertical box, everything in this vertical box will be aligned from left to right, okay? So on this vertical box, we need to take a text right here, put it in the horizontal box, and select the text. For the text, let's just go ahead and call this progress, I guess is fine. We'll name that progress, and we need to set, let's see, the horizontal box actually. Let's go into the horizontal box. We need the horizontal box, the right here, the horizontal alignment. Let's make it centered, and then we can just keep it stretched straight up and down. Not a big deal because, like I said, this is vertical, so it's not going to stretch all the way down for us. It's just fine. Right there, progress, it's centered. So now on the text, let's go ahead and add a spacer right here, and we'll just put it, let's see, we'll put it into actually the vertical box. Just drop it on the vertical box, select the spacer real quick. Right here in the size Y, Go ahead and make it a size 5. Give us a little bit of padding between progress. Now we need a progress bar. So go ahead and, let's see, where is it? Progress bar, I believe. There it is, progress bar. Drag and drop that onto the vertical box right there. Let's select that and let's rename this to completion bar. Completion, wow, come on. Completion underscore bar. And the reason why we do underscore bars so we know that it is progress bar. And that's why I named it completion, because we got this name progress right there. So anyways, with that. And then one more thing I want to do. Now this will fill up, as you can see right here, if we test this out, the percent, this will fill up based off of the progress of the building. But just to give you another option here, another visual representation, go ahead and grab a text, right? Oh, you know what we need to do? I need to grab a horizontal box. That's one thing I forgot. Grab the horizontal box, drop it into the vertical box. Now take this completion bar and put it inside this horizontal box. Okay, now you can see right here, it just kind of fills it up right here. Let's go ahead, or it gets real small. Select, with the completion bar selected, select fill. It's going to go all the way, but we don't want it to fill all the way. Let's do a fill of 0.8, so 80% of this. Now, it's still going to fill up all the way because there's nothing to the right of it. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. Grab a text block, put it inside that horizontal box next to the completion bar, and let's go ahead and select that one. Let's call this one completion underscore text. So that way we can tell the difference between it. Now we need to change its size. Let's go ahead and change its size to 13. Seems to be a decent size for me. Depending on how big this is going to dictate, because they're all inside this horizontal box, it's going to dictate the size of your progress bar. So I think this is a decent size right here. So just to give it something other than saying text block, let's do 33%. All right. So that's pretty much how it's going to look, and that still doesn't quite seem right to me. Oh, because we need to change its alignment here. Go ahead and select your text. Make sure your text box is selected. We need to change its fill size, right? It's a fill. Where is it? Fill. 0.2. There we go. So now take the text and we need to center it. So it is in there just like so. So there we go. So now it'll stay right in there, nice and perfect. So let's go ahead and set these up really quick. Select your progress bar. Go to your percentage, select bind, create binding. And let's rename this one get completion. Come on. F2. Get completion percent underscore bar. Go back into the designer real quick. Select the text, the completion text, and again, a bind next to the text, create binding, and we will call this one get completion percent underscore text. Okay, so now for the completion bar, what we need to do is pull this out here. Come on, pull this out right here. We need to get our proxy reference. Get it, because we're in the Proxy Hud. Remember, this is the instance of the proxy. Okay, so pull off of this one. Remember, we have the work time spent. Get your work time spent. This will let us know for the construction time, right? Because this is what this is all based off of. So we just pretty much want the same variables that we have. Where is it? Select back in our tick. Right here, where we're checking to see if construction is complete. Work time spent and construction time. That's pretty much what we need. So pull right off of here and do construction, get construction time. All right, so let's set that up. And then all we need to do is take our time spent, divide it, float by float, and then plug this into here. Now this will give us what it expects, what a progress bar expects. As you can tell when you come back in here to the designer, is select your progress bar. Is the percentage, it's a normalized number. It's a number between a float number between 0 and 1. 1 is maximum, 0 is minimum. So it's a normalized number. So there might be some instances when you're using the progress bar where you actually have to divide this by like 100. Like if you want just work time spent, if that was the only variable in here, we'd have to divide that by 100. But since we're dividing it by another number, it's going to give us the normalized number. So just take that, plug that into the return value, and that is perfect. That's all we need for that. So for the completion bar, that is the bar for the text. And it's pretty much going to be the same thing for the text. Let's go ahead and we'll just, come on. Select these, Control C, jump back in here into the text. We got a little bit extra to do right here, but nothing too major. Control V, paste that in here. Now this, because this is a normalized number, well, that's not going to work for our text. We don't want a point, no, 0.25 is done, right? 0.25%, that's not it. So we need to multiply this, float times float. We just need to multiply it by 100 so we can get a regular looking percentage number. Okay. And from this though, we don't want this. This is currently a float. We don't need the bottom end of the percentage. So let's go ahead and floor. This will round the float down to the nearest whole number, right? So now we got an integer. So that's a little something easier to work with right here. Let's go ahead and right click, type append string. We need to append a string. So all we need to do is we need to add the percentage afterwards. So make sure you add a space and then the percent. So that way it gives us a little cushion between our number and the percentage. It just looks a little bit cleaner. So now take this, drag and drop that into the A. So now it'll say 10% complete, right? So drag this, put that into the return value, which expects a text. It'll convert our string into a text for us. And that is it. So go ahead and take a quick second and look at that. See how that's set up. All right. Compile and save that. And that is it for this. Wow, 37 minutes. Yeah, definitely didn't have time for that. So let's go ahead and play this real quick so you can see what it looks like. Right. So if we just drop, well, we don't have the MPC yet. Oh, you know what? We didn't. Let's go ahead and close that out real quick. We need to go back in here into the event graph. Go back in the designer. This name right here, text. We need to get the name of the building right here, or just change. Actually, you know what? I don't even have that. Let's go. I think all I did because, yeah, right at this point, let's just select this text and go construction site, right? Because it's pretty much all going to be the same. Eventually, we might be able to update it to say apartment construction or burger construction, but this is all I have for right now. Nothing too fancy. Like I mentioned yesterday, and I think I mentioned earlier today, is this isn't a final product. Let's take this and we will shrink this up a little bit to kind of fit it. Compile and save it. So, all right. So now let's go ahead and do this. Construction office, drop it in here. You select it. See how it moved it to the construction site for us. A nice little interpolation to it. Centers it on the building. Gives us our progress bar. Now this kind of looks funny because it's over the progress bar, but it is centered between these two. All right. So let's go ahead and push V. Let's get a guy here, right? We already got this one. We haven't set anything up for the MPC yet, but now he's doing, let's speed this up a little bit. Select the building and see the speed going up. Yeah, perfect. Progress is going up. Let's speed and click. Oh, I missed it. And notice how you can't select anything. The edge screen movement's not there. Can't change the game speed. Let's go ahead and close that out quickly. Oh, yeah. So there we go. Select that. It goes there. Now it says construction office instead of construction site. And, of course, I messed this one up. I didn't re-enable off the building. So come back in here. Let's fix that really quick. On the HUD close, building HUD, event graph. I did. Why is it not re-enabling? Oh, is enabled. That's why I didn't hit this checkbox right here. So make sure you hit that checkbox. Building HUD on close is the main HUD enabled, true, compile, and save it. Now that'll work. All right, so we're at 40 minutes. Sorry it took a little bit longer than expected. In the next episode, we will finish up the NPC. It's going to be a little bit more involved because if the NPC is walking in the world, I want the camera to actually follow him. I want it to lock onto him. So it'll kind of follow him around the world. And that's going to be a little more involved. It's not going to be too bad. And then since that's not going to take an entire episode though, what we will do is I think we will enable the NPC walk speed based off of the actual game speed. So the faster the game speed goes, the faster he goes, the slower you go, the game speed is, the slower he'll go. So we're well over time right now, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do me a favor, go down and hit that like button. It helps me out a ton. Leave me some comments down there. It's awesome. I like talking to you guys. And check out a video or something that's playing on the screen right there. The past video, the next video, every video I got, check out the playlist. All right, peace.